Hey everyone, Lane here for Maker's Lane. So I've seen a lot of stuff on Instagram of people making these phone cases out of wood and epoxy, and I thought they looked really cool. And every person I looked at, even on YouTube, I couldn't find like what they used and how they did it. It's basically just them making phone cases, and then it's like the finished product. So I wanted to do one and figure out how to do it because I probably missed it, but I'm sure there's videos out there, but I just didn't see them. So what I want to do today is, this is called a sublimation case. So all it is basically you got this template, or I think you can actually print on this, put it through the printer and actually print like designs or whatever on it. It's called a sublimation case. It's one thing that like none of the videos, none of the Instagram posts, nothing said about. It's a sublimation case. So I get this one specifically for the iPhone 10X or whatever my phone is. But all it is, again, is a case that's kind of sinks in a little bit. There's a little bit of lip here to where this fits in. You use this as a template, and then this part's sticky and it comes off, and put that whatever it is in here. You take this off and you put it in here, and you have a case. From all the videos I saw, it looked really easy. I'm assuming it's probably not, or everybody would be doing it. So I'm gonna go through and show you guys the process, at least what I do, and see if we can make a really neat phone case out of it. So let's get started with what you're gonna need, or at least what I'm gonna use, and everything I use will be in the description. This will basically be just a tutorial on how to make a sublimation phone case. So let's get to it. Here are the basics for what you'll need. A frame, some scrap wood, some epoxy, some cups for the epoxy, some dye for the epoxy, some stirring sticks for the epoxy, hot glue gun for the frame, and yeah, that's basically it. So let's get started. Oh yeah, I almost forgot one of these things. So you need one of these guys. All of this will be linked in the description below. Let's start with the frame. Okay, it's been a day and a half now. Looks like it's all dry. So I'll put this through the belt sander to get this high point off, and then I'll put it through my planer, and then we'll cut it to size, and then so we'll cut this out so that it's that size. We'll have to cut this guy out too. Then we'll polish it up with some sandpaper and some different compounds until it's nice and shiny like this again. Should go right in the back of here. We should have a phone case. All right, so I got all the really high parts off, so now that when it goes to the planer, it won't grab on anything. So now I'm gonna put it through the planer. All right, right, we'll scratch that. That was not a good idea. I don't know what happened there. All right, so that was an epic fail. This is basically what's left of the case I tried to make, running it through the planer after throwing it against the wall because I was so frustrated. So yeah, planer is not a good option for these cases. I think the main problem, my planer only has 2 blades, which causes it to catch a little bit more. Now, epoxy, they basically just blow up in there. So I've done this several times now, and I've actually had a product come out. So I figured it out, otherwise you wouldn't be seeing this video. I tried it again, and here was my second attempt. So this one, I again, put it through the planer. It caught, but it didn't catch enough. So I actually did mount it to the back of a sublimation case and put it in there. But after a couple uses, there ended up being a hole in it, and it caught on something, and the case broke. So I said, screw it. And so I basically started over again. Basically, I figured out that you cannot use the planer. You have to sand it down by hand, which means basically it needs to be pretty thin. So this is what it comes with. This is what I call the template. It basically has to be this thin. Not necessarily the whole, like the center thickness can be a little bit higher, because if it's raised a little bit, it's not gonna matter, but the edges all have to be this thickness, which is really thin, and it's not easy to do. So here's one of the slabs I started with, and you can see how thick it is, and I even tried to pour this thin. Here's half of the case. This is what it actually turned out looking like. So this one's probably fine. It's okay. If I took it off maybe and redid it. I didn't really like the color and how it turned out. With this one, I basically sanded it all down by hand and to the thickness I wanted. So I sanded the back and the front. It was this thick, so I sanded quite a bit down because I mean you can't tell that it's raised at all. So this one probably would have been fine and turned out well. The only problem was I ended up putting it on here and then started sanding it while I was on here, and I caught the case. So the rubber's all scratched up. It doesn't look perfect. It's a decent case. It's not a real good showcase of how these sublimation cases work. If you're doing it as a hobbyist, it's decent. Everybody's just gonna think you're really hard on your cases, even though it's brand new. So wasn't too happy about that, so I continued. The next one, I did this. Obviously a big Code Red fan. You've probably seen it in my other videos. This one, basically, I tried, because how thin you need to make it, I tried to epoxy it on the case. So I basically glued this back piece down, this piece of metal. I cut it all out, flattened it down, and glued it to the back here, and then taped this all off and poured epoxy on it. The big issue was the edges raised up. Basically sanded this down to try and make it flat. And when I did that, you know, I caught some stuff and there's some air bubbles in it. And it just wasn't that great of a method. You know, epoxy ended up getting all over the case, and because it's rubber, it doesn't really stick very well to the case. So it just basically was a flop. It's okay, but yeah, I would never actually put this on my phone. It looks like crap. So I tried it again, and this is what I came up with. I am really happy with this. It was still pretty difficult. All I did with this one though is I didn't put it through the planer. I didn't pour epoxy directly on the phone case. All I did was cut a piece of plywood, put a river down the center, and then sand until I had what I want. It probably took me 3 hours of sanding to do this one. Basically, it's a perfect sublimation phone case. There is a little bit of an issue here where it caught when I was sanding it. It was just the thinnest part, and it just kind of snapped off. The only other issue, and it's really minor, is some of the glue didn't stick perfectly, so it's coming up in this corner a little bit, so just be careful of that. Make sure you get good adhesion. There's not any dust particles or anything like that. I think that's what happened, but I'm not sure. So, but yeah, this one came out really well. I've been using it on my phone for a while. It holds up really well. It's really durable. Drop my phone in this. But yeah, it's a really great phone case. So I did this, and I wanted to make one more just for fun. So I ended up making this guy. So this is the the symbol is the Ever Star from Lord of the Rings. If you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you know exactly what this is and who wears it and all that. But I had it lying around. I 3D printed it a while back. I wanted to use on something. I thought I was going to forge it, but I ended up just using it in this guy. So here's the whole process. I'll try and speed it up so it's not too boring, but here's exactly what I did to make this. So as you can see, it turned out really well. Super high quality, super high finish. No issues on this at all. I am immensely happy with this case and how it turned out. Again, it took me 6 times, I think. 1, 2, 3, where's it? Oh, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 times to do this one. So not easy to do. Basically, the best method I found was just to sand, and keep sanding. Yeah, that's basically it. The two things I guess I would say not to do with these is, one, put them through a planer. Unless you have a very high quality planer with a lot of blades, it basically will grab the epoxy and tear it apart. At least that's the experience I had with it. Maybe I just do it wrong. Who knows? I don't know. The other thing is, so these edges on this one, the reason why I scuffed this phone case up was because I was trying to sand the edges all the way flat, and I got the phone case on this one, I guess, a little bit right here. So the other thing I would say is, before you put it on here, make sure it's as thin as this, because if it's not, it's going to raise up and it's going to get caught on stuff and it's just not going to look great. So make sure you make it as thin as this on the edges. You don't have to necessarily do that in the center. It doesn't have to be this thin the entire way across, but make sure you do it on the edges. So those are my phone cases. These are 2 I'm really happy with. If you guys have any suggestions on how I can improve this process, or how people watching this can improve the process, please let me know. If there's a tool out there or something that makes this easy, or like something that like holds the epoxy to the perfect thickness or whatever, put it in the comments down below. And yeah, I'll definitely look at those and see if I can improve it. Maybe I'll do another one where I feature your suggestion. If you guys liked what you saw here and you think I did a good job, please leave me a thumbs up. I could always use the support. Do a lot of epoxy pours. I really like epoxy. I really like dealing with wood. I really like dealing with metal. So if you like that kind of stuff, go ahead and subscribe. I come out with videos pretty regularly. So these are sublimation phone cases. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Until next time, I'm Lane from Maker's Lane. You guys have a good one.